If you've ever tried to garden before, I don't have to tell you that starting your own plants from seeds is a total cheat code. You'll get to have plants earlier in the season, you'll get to have much healthier plants, and lots of varieties that they never sell in stores. Not to mention you'll be avoiding the chance of any of your plants being covered in pesticides or fertilizers or any other kind of chemical. Plus, you'll be avoiding all that plastic waste that comes from buying all those plants from the store. But growing your own plants from seeds indoors is overwhelming and extremely complicated until you learn my 5-step strategy. I've been growing my own plants from seeds for years, and it wasn't until I developed this 5-step system that I completely up-leveled my garden. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to teach you these 5 steps so that you can start your own seeds indoors this season. Let's get into it. There's only 7 things that you need to get to use this incredibly easy seed starting method. So first step is some Coco coir. I love to start with these big blocks. They pack a ton of Coco coir inside of here, and the possibilities are endless. Next, you need some great earthworm castings. I like to use either my own earthworm castings or some that I get from a trusted source. Next up, you want to have some draining trays. So these are trays that have little holes in them so that they can slowly drip out the water every single time you are watering your seedlings. Then you need a non-draining tray, so it needs to be about the same size. This is going to go right under your draining tray, and it's going to catch that water. In fact, I love to bottom water my seedlings. You'll learn about that in a little bit. Then you need a soil blocker. There's a lot of different kinds of these on the market. Basically, this is going to take your soil blend and turn it into these handy dandy little soil blocks. Then you're going to need some water, just like this. You can get this from a thing called a tap. And then you're going to need some seeds. We'll cover lights later, but these are the things you need to get started right away. So let's do just that. All right, step number 1 is to soak your block. This is going to take a little bit of time, and I like to do it in my non-draining tray. That way I don't have to get too many things dirty. But this thing is going to take, it's kind of hydrophobic a little bit at the beginning, so it does take a hot minute for it to start to expand and break apart. But this is just something, use about a pitcher of water, fill up your non-draining tray, and then you'll see that this slowly starts to break apart and absorb all that water so that it's ready to turn into soil blocks. So give us a few minutes, we'll skip ahead and show you what happens. All right, it's been just a few minutes, and look at how our Coco coir block has exploded. By the way, this is a 5-minute task that's inside the book, 5-Minute Gardener. Inside this book, I show you little things you can do every single day to have the best garden. These are year-round garden habits for busy people, and this is one of the 5-minute things you can do in the winter as you start your seeds. So check out the book. I'll put the link below this video if you don't have it yet. All right, so we've got our nice little block here, and I'm just going to slowly break it apart. Is that so cool? So neat. So I'm going to make sure this all has absorbed the water. We've got nice, moist Coco coir here that's ready to become our seed starting mix. So I'm breaking apart all of this Coco coir. I'm going to save this. You can see I only really need 1 block in order to get my first set of seeds going. So I used to do Coco coir all by itself, and I found that my plants struggled a little bit with nutrient needs around week 2 or so. So I started working in just a little bit of earthworm castings, still doing things pretty natural, nothing too crazy in terms of adding in. And my plants just look so much healthier. They don't seem to struggle when I hit week 2 or week 3. So I'm going to pull this out and give myself a little bit more space. What I want to do is mix in earthworm castings so it's about a 3-to-1 ratio. So for every 3 parts Coco coir, I've got about 1 part earthworm castings. So I've got these earthworm castings right here. And the way I work this out is I can tell I've got my Coco coir covering about 3/4 of the depth of the tray. And then I'm just going to sprinkle the earthworm castings right on top so that it basically fills the tray. It isn't an exact math, but it works out. I'm just going to mix this all together with my hands, and then I'm going to be ready to use my soil blocker. All right, step number 3 is to create your soil blocks. So I've got the draining tray here on top and the non-draining tray underneath, all right? So this is my new setup over here that's ready for my soil blocks. I'm just using a 4 soil blocker. And the trick is here, you want a pretty wet soil mix. That's why we soaked that Coco coir, made sure that it had a pretty high water content. And there is a little bit of a, you know, not much, don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit of a skill, a finesse here to getting it into the blocker. Essentially, you want it to be stuck in the blocker in this first round. So I'm using this non-draining tray. I move it around, slide the soil into it, and then I'm just going to come over here to my draining tray, and then you just squeeze and release, and you've got the perfect little soil block there. All right, so those are our first soil blocks. Now we're going to keep going. So again, you kind of push and pull to get the soil mixture into the blocker. And once you start to see a little water come out, you can lift up and make sure it's nice and packed, and it is. So then I'm just going to come over here, slide right next to the first set of 4, push and release. And I've got my next set of 4. Those are a little shorter, I don't know why, but all right, we're going to do it again. So I'm packing it in. Once you give it a good squeeze and water comes out, you know you're at a pretty good level. And then we come over here and squeeze it again. All right, step 1 was soak. Step 2 was to mix it up. Step 3 was block, and ta-da! We got some serious soil blocks here. Oh my goodness, so beautiful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 times 5, 50 plants here, my friends, in this little spot. It took no plastic bags. It took no plastic sale trays, and now we are going to plant. So I'm going to be planting Napa cabbage and Toscano kale. If you have missed any of our planting videos that talk about when to plant each month, what to plant, I make those for you every single month, and we'll make sure we link those. But I just did a video about what to plant this month, so you definitely want to watch that, okay? So I'm going to be planting Napa cabbage and Toscano kale, and I'm just going to drop 1 in each and every little hole. The great thing about this soil blocker is it gives me a little hole to plant in. So I'm just going to do just that, making sure that I take my time and just put 1 seed per hole. And this is literally, this is probably the hardest, the most exact part. And I know some places are going to tell you to plant more than 1 seed, but I have found, honestly, that's just such a pain to thin later. So I don't do that. I just plant 1 per hole, and then if it doesn't come up, I'll go back, and I would really honestly rather do that than thin them. All right, so I decided to go all in on my cabbage. I had enough seeds to plant the entire thing with Napa, and who doesn't want 50 harvests of Napa cabbage? I know I do. I love Chinese cabbage salad, so good. So this is a pretty moist soil blend, but a soil mix, but what I'm gonna do is add a little bit of water to the non-draining tray. And what this makes sure happens is that these do not dry out. Those first few days are the most important for these seeds not to dry out. As soon as they start to germinate, you want them to feel lots of moisture around them so that they fully germinate and don't die out. A dried out seed is a died out seed. So we're gonna put this aside. You can cover this up with a little dome. I honestly don't need that, never have. And so if you want to have a dome, go for it. But I try to keep it simple for you because I need it simple for me. So no dome, I'm just going to let this sit out. I'll monitor the water, the moisture level. All I got to do is just touch this and I can tell if it's dried out or not. Actually, the Coco coir will show you if it's dried out because the color is going to lighten up. And then as soon as you see sprouts, that's when it's time to move on to step number 5. So let's jump ahead and do that now. We are now at step number 5, and ta-da! 7 days have passed since we first planted our Napa cabbage seeds, and just look at these beauties. Every day I'd come down just to touch the side of the soil blocks and ensure that they hadn't dried out. So I just come down and add a little bit of water, not to the top of these seedlings, but to the non-draining tray. I just add about 1 inch or 2, and then just continue to monitor the water and be sure that the seedlings do not dry out. So with these soil blocks staying nice and moist, these seeds got plenty of water to start to germinate within just a few days. So then it was time to move on to step number 5, which is to add some light. Now I have a fancy light setup, but honestly didn't have time to rescue it from the depths of my garage. So I just pulled out this nice, easy little clip-on light to get these seedlings going. These days, there are all kinds of seed starting supplies that you can get, so you can start seeds in some of the smallest spaces in your home. You can do this in a little corner, in a closet, or right here on a tabletop. These little lights don't provide quite as full spectrum or full coverage as a big seed starting light would do, but they get the job done, and you can see just 7 days after planting these seedlings, they're all looking great. So all I need to do is turn these lights on and make sure that they are just a few inches above the seedlings. Now you don't want them touching the seedlings, but almost. One of the worst things that happens when you're starting your own seeds is getting leggy plants, and you'll start to see where the stems really start to reach up and your seedlings end up being mostly stems and not a lot of leaves. We really want those leaves, that first set of leaves, to be growing as close to the soil surface as possible. So we set this up to be right over the leaves and to cover as much space as possible. And then we just run these lights about 12 hours a day. Now these little systems come with a timer, so you can set it up to come on at say 6 a.m. and go off at around 6 or 8 p.m. You can adjust the light to go longer, and if you have one like this that isn't necessarily covering all your seedlings during each 12-hour shift, you can just come in about 6 hours in and flip the seedling tray so that the other seedlings get the same amount of light as this first set. And then from here, it's just a waiting game. Every day, you're just gonna monitor the moisture level of your soil, ensuring that they're not drying out. And you're just gonna be sure that your lights come on and give these seedlings at least 12 hours of light per day. And that is literally it. Because you grow in these soil blocks, you don't have to pot them up. You don't have to move them to a new space. And even when you take these out and move them into the garden, there's nothing to throw away. There is literally no waste. In just about a month, I'll be moving these Napa cabbage seedlings out into my kitchen garden. So if you want me to make a video about that and show you how to do the transplant, let me know in the comments. Hi, it's me from the future. So check out what has happened to our seeds after they've been growing for about 5 or 6 weeks. This is what they look like. And let me tell you, I have been out of town for 3 of the 6 weeks. So this is what happens for barely cared for plants that were put into this seed medium and grown the way I'm teaching you in this video. The Napa cabbage is doing fantastic. It's already put on its second, third set of leaves. Needs a little bit of water. I just got back in town, so I'm going to take care of that today. The kale planted by my videographer, Molly. Let's give Molly a hand. This is looking awesome. The light got a little away from these plants while I was out of town, but look at how many very healthy Toscano kale plants I have to move out into my garden. So excited about that. And then check out these incredible sugar snaps. These guys are begging to go out into the garden. So I planted these not with soil blocking, but with using these root trainers. But I used the exact same soil blend, the Coco coir and the Earthworm castings, and the same light system. And man, these things are happy. In fact, I think I'm gonna have to pinch these back before I have time to get them out into the garden, because today it was 8 degrees. Oh my word. So if you're wondering if this seed starting method works, check out what happens in just 5 or 6 weeks with literally minimal, and I am emphasizing minimal care. All I've done is add a little bit of water to the non-draining trays, turn the lights on and off, and then be out of town for 3 weeks, and this is what happened. Now I'm going back to the future. I'll see you there. Now, turning on lights, turning off lights, and setting up seeds to grow indoors, that's just a very small part of my new book, The 5-Minute Gardener. This book is your seasonal guide to know what to do every single day of the year based on the season that you're currently living in, no matter where you live. I love this book because it's so practical. I know that most of us, we've only got about 5 minutes a day to give to the garden, and this book tells you what to do every time you've got a little bit of time. You can get your copy of the 5-Minute Gardener plus a ton of awesome bonuses at the link right below this video. Thank you so much for your support of the 5-Minute Gardener. When I checked earlier today, we were #1 new release in gardening books. So thank you so much for that support. Making the garden part of your everyday life is what we are all about here at Gardenary, and simplifying it for busy people like me and you, that's what we love to do. So if you want to grow a little bit more of your own food this year and do it in the easiest, fastest way possible, you got to hit that subscribe button and then share our channel with your friends and family. Listen, the more, the merrier. If we can get every single person growing a little bit of their own food, we can live in a world that previously we could only dream about. Thank you so much for being part of Gardenary. I'm here because you're here, and I'm so thankful that you're going to make the garden part of your life this year. Now get out there, plant some seeds. You got 5 minutes to do it. I'll see you next time.